I'm making this video about a week after the exam results came out, the A-level results in England. And my son's been going through this process, so we're pleased that he got his results and he's off to university in September. But it did make me think that, well, it gave me like a moment of clarity, sometimes where you can, instead of being in the system, you can see the system in operation. And I thought to myself, education's a brilliant thing, I'm a great fan of education, but there are some things the kids are not taught, and I think it would be extremely beneficial for them to learn these things. So I've got three things that I really think should be on the curriculum, and I think they're incredibly important. To a degree, far more important than many things, and certainly just, maybe just a few weeks of curriculum time would deal with them. So anyway, these are the three things that I think kids ought to learn. The first one is mental health problems are not inevitable. In the UK, mental health problems are rising. More and more people have mental health problems than had them before. Since about 2000, we've seen a rise of about 170% in mental health problems. And sometimes, depending on the statistics you look at, 1 in 4 or 1 in 5 of the population, will experience a mental health problem in their lifetime. And that's like huge, right? That's a huge amount of people. And I see people all the time, and there's a general trend which this is the thing that I'd like the schools to address. People sort of accept having a mental health problem. So they don't say, I've got a mental health problem, oh, that's something wrong, I better do something about it. They kind of just struggle on. And what happens is that they adapt their life, they accommodate the mental health problem so that it's incorporated into their life. And so it just becomes an element of life, and that makes it a bit less uncomfortable. Okay, but then you've distorted your life to accommodate your mental health problem. The mental health problem doesn't go, okay, fine, I'll just stay where I am. It actually incrementally gets worse. I mean, it goes up and down, but incrementally it gets worse, and therefore you have to accommodate it more and more and more. So it takes up a larger proportion of your life until eventually it becomes so problematic that you have to try and get some help. So the first point, therefore, is that mental health problems are not inevitable. They don't have to have them. They're not necessary. As soon as you recognize you have something that's problematic, do something about it. But when it gets to be serious enough that you want to do something about it, you go to your GP. So the second thing that I'd like to have schools teach is that going on an antidepressant as a strategy for dealing with a mental health problem is a very bad idea. There, I've said it. Antidepressants are a very, very poor treatment for mental health problems for a number of reasons. But they are the treatment that's on offer. And in fairness, if you go to a surgeon and say, I have a problem with my leg, the surgeon will say, surgery. If you go to a dietitian, they'll say, diet. If you go to a psychologist, they'll say, psychological. If you go to a psychiatrist, they'll say, medication, antidepressant. If you go to your GP, they'll say, medication, antidepressant. And increasingly that is the port of call. That's the place that you end up, because antidepressant use has massively increased. Roughly 16% of the British population is on an antidepressant. 16%, and I use the idea of Wembley Stadium. If you think of a big football stadium, Wembley Stadium, it holds 90,000 people. Around about 15,000 in that stadium will be on an antidepressant. And I go, well, and we just got to go, yeah, just what it is, yeah. But actually that's a huge number of people on an antidepressant, which is a very poor strategy. Now the reasons it's a poor strategy, first of all, it doesn't resolve the problem, it simply treats the symptoms. I'll perhaps come back to that in a moment. So it doesn't resolve the problem, it treats the symptoms, which means that you have to continue taking it because the symptoms persist. So in the UK, a large proportion of people take antidepressants for more than 2 years, and a great proportion of those people expect to be on antidepressants for the whole of their life. And I see many people who have been on antidepressants for 20 odd years, and then it's incredibly difficult to get off them. About 46% of people, when asked about antidepressant withdrawal, say that their symptoms of withdrawal are extremely serious. They're severe, and some people never get off them. Okay, perhaps that's the consequence of treatment, you might say. Yeah, but antidepressant use increases your chance of prematurely dying by 33%. It increases your chance of a cardiac event by 17%. So they're not that good for you. You have to stay on them often for a very long time, and they don't treat the problem. They just make it a little bit more manageable by reducing the physiology, by managing the physiology, but the problem persists. In my own research, when I surveyed people in a sort of a GP catchment, the average time on antidepressants was 5 years, and they still scored significantly, clinically significantly, for anxiety and depression. It's just they were a little bit less bothered by the symptoms, so they could accommodate them a little bit better. They could incorporate them in their life a little bit better. They still had the problem. So the second thing I'd like schools to teach is that psychological problems require psychological solutions, not medical solutions. You go to your GP, you get a medical solution. It's a very poor treatment, really, for the various reasons. But here's the sort of the last cherry on this particular topic. There are causes and consequences. Symptoms are consequences. If you don't deal with the causes continue to create the symptoms. If you medicate the symptoms, the causes continue to act. It's just that they're not the symptoms are less attention capturing and less troublesome. You still have the symptoms. You can just manage them a bit better. That's a very poor treatment. And the fact is that good treatments exist, psychological treatments exist. So if you were to go through, say, a process of counselling or CBT, which is what I do, you can be cured of these problems in a relatively short order, more or less. For many common problems, 8 to 12 weeks of therapy would probably do with it. Or if you work through one of my active self-help programs like Anxiety Wizard, that'll probably deal with it. No side effects to psychological therapy, no withdrawal symptoms, no long-term use, but something focused on the causes, not the consequences. The third thing that I'd like people to learn at school is that you can help yourself. Right? Now, if you're interested in having a healthy body, you might manage your diet, healthy diet, right? Fruit and vegetables, that kind of stuff, right? If you're interested in how you physically look, you might do some exercise. If you're interested in having a good relationship with your partner, you put some effort in the relationship. You don't just ignore it. That's a bad recipe. So if you have a psychological problem of any sort, you can put some effort into resolving it, and it will resolve. And you will be in charge of it. You will have control over this process as opposed to outsourcing it. You can't outsource your mental health to an antidepressant. You have to resolve it yourself. And in fairness, all psychological treatments are basically self-help. The therapist tells you what to do, or the therapist helps you figure out what to do, but you have to do it. All psychological treatment is you doing some stuff that you didn't really know what to do, you had to do, or what the benefits would be. But basically it's just education. So those are the three things, right? Mental health problems are not inevitable, and you should definitely do something about it if you have one. Don't accommodate them, get rid of them. The second thing is antidepressants. Very, very poor strategy. It's a medical solution for a psychological problem, which makes it really poor, very poor. And the third thing is you can help yourself. Like you can do everything. You do everything yourself, right? You look after your health, you look after your well-being, you look after relationships, you look after your work relationships. Take control of your mental health and do something with it. Which brings me really to the tools that I offer in Anxiety Wizard, right? If you're going to do something, if you're going to take control of your mental health, you need a path to go down. So that's why I recommend Anxiety Wizard. Cognitive behavior therapy, active self-help combined, it will take you all the way, and you will learn how to be your own therapist, so you don't need a therapist. So I think that the three things that I've outlined are serious omissions, and I just don't understand in this day and age why they are serious omissions. I mean, I'm a big fan of history. I've got lots of history books and all the rest of it, right? But history's not more important than learning how to have a successful life, unburdened by mental health problems. Geography is not more important. Even mathematics and science and engineering are not more important than learning how to manage stress and anxiety and panic, etc. So I don't get it. The only explanation I actually have is that nobody knows. Nobody seems to know. Nobody who has a voice or has the ear of people in power, they just don't know. So everything I've said to you, people don't know. Or they don't care. Anyway, I'm Dr. David Purvis. Thanks for taking the time to watch and listen.